Hey friends, welcome to the From Busy to Rich podcast. This podcast exists to inspire advisors like you to increase your profitability and the quality of your life, not just for yourself though, also for those that you serve. Wes, it's good to see you, my friend. How are you?
Andy, fabulous. Great to see you.
Let's dive right in today. One of the most common, and I think maybe I've told this story before, one of the most common problems or solutions, I should say, that advisors think that will solve their practice is, I just need more customers. I need more leads, right? And so we're going to talk about one of the most common ways that advisors seek to get leads, because they're generally very warm. They would close faster. They're clear on what you offer, usually. And there's a lot of trust that is built into this kind of lead, and it is the referral, right? It is. People love it. People love it. The likelihood of a referral coming from someone you know, like, and trust going south is so much smaller than, I would say generally any other lead you might get, certainly paid leads and things like that. So tell me, if I'm an advisor and I say, hey, Wes, teach me how to get referrals. I want to get more referrals. What's the process? What's the step-by-step? Where do you start? Where do you finish? What's the key that you say, hey, you need to, print this off, give them, give them 10 business cards, whatever. Here's a landing page. How do you handle and coach advisors on, here's how you need to go get some more people?
Yeah. So this is not going to be very satisfying for most people that are listening to this. And if Andy, what they're looking for is abracadabra, because I think that's what most people look for when it comes to saying, how do you get referrals? Well, I got this abracadabra. It's magic. What you say is this spell, and the person just starts giving you these things and it all works out so well. But I think it's important to go a couple places with this, because here's what the industry tells you, right? And listen, I say this, I do with a lot of empathy here, because I understand this, and even people who teach these methods, I think there's good in there. The issue becomes this, is that if you start asking people, like I was taught when I was in, hey, what you need to do is, when you're done selling them, or maybe even before you've sold them whatever product that you're going to put in place, you need to pull out. In fact, Andy, they would put and I don't even know if they do this anymore. I'm sure they don't, because everything's online. We used to have something called a policy wallet. And the policy wallet, Andy, was what you put the life insurance policy in. And it basically looked like a really poorly done, like laminated picture book. And you would put the policy in, and you had extra sleeves in it because they were going to buy more policies from you.
Oh, yeah.
So how sexy is that, right?
Yeah.
Big old, emblem of the company over on the far right-hand corner. It snapped. It was very fancy, Andy.
Had a snap?
Who wouldn't want to refer you out after you gave them one of those?
It had a snap on it? Hey, just to keep those policies secure? Yeah.
When you came and delivered that policy wallet with the policy, two things were going on. One is, you were hoping they were going to sign that delivery receipt, because you're going, oh my God, what if they change their mind? What if Uncle Bob?
Oh, okay. So this was not, this was, okay.
This is like you were bringing it to him. Okay. That's why I'm so glad these days you just send everything and you're all done. Everything's electronic. But in the policy wallet, they would put, by design, an orange or a red piece of construction paper that had, who do you know, across the top of it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay.
And the goal was, you opened it up and you just would say, they said, listen, here's how you do this. You just set that right over next to the policy, the wallet they're about to sign, and the policy delivery receipt. And so they see it, and psychology says they're thinking, I need to give him someone. Here's what they're thinking. What they're thinking is not a good. They're going, what is he about to do with that? That is what they're thinking. I promise you, because they're like, I don't know, because they're like, hey, you go down the list of it. In fact, another great way, and if they come up, well, we'd have to think about who we know that we could help. Well, what you should do is pull out your cell phone. In fact, we'll go through who's in your cell phone, and then we'll put them on the policy. here's the deal. Whatever method, whatever the kind of unique thing people use for it, here's what I would say with all of it. With again, a lot of empathy, because I understand why people are doing it. Is all that leads to, if you do get names on that list, here's the reality of people. Everyone that you want to work with, if you're listening today, and that I want to work with, they're doing fine without you, and they're doing fine without me. They're successful. They've got a lot going on. They got more things to do than there's possibly time to do it. So let me ask you, Andy, if you could create a flow of people to talk to that you were reaching out to, that you had to interrupt their day, whatever it is they were doing, they're successful, they're moving along, or you could have an endless flow of people that instead of that, they were calling you saying, hey, you met with my friend, Andy, and Andy told me some things you did for them. I would like to see if we can work together. Which kind of meetings would you rather have more of?
I mean, I want people to come to me that know me, that I didn't. Yeah, I mean, I always want someone to show up at my front door and say, I want to buy what you have.
Yeah. So the way we process this, and this is really the difference maker, what I see elite advisors and I see advisors that struggle in this area or just have very transactional practices, the difference maker becomes this. It's that if you were to consider, is this a 10, a 5, or a 1? 10 being, it's the person that reaches out to you that knows someone that's already done business with you and says, you've done work with Andy. He said you did this thing. I know you have a lot more things. I would like to meet and see if we could work together. 1 is the opposite of that. 1 is you're reaching out to them and saying, hey, I got your name from so-and-so. Can we meet? I've got really good, cool stuff to talk about. Now, of course, you'll be better at it, right? But listen, I can be the same guy saying the same things. I can even have somebody, or in the middle. Let's even go in the middle for a second. You can have people that say, hey, you should talk to my friend, Andy, because, Andy's a good guy. He could probably use a lot of this thinking that you do.
Uh-huh.
You're still reaching out to Andy, and maybe they sent an email or something like that, but it's just a very different. So listen, if I could have an endless set of people coming to me on that scale of 10, 5, 1, I'd rather have all 10s.
Sure.
And the way you get there is because you have a process that's so attractive, it makes asking for referrals irrelevant. We, for the last decade, have not asked for any referrals ever. Now, I'm not telling you this is the way to go. What I'm telling you is this is what we've done, and we have no problem with new clients coming to our business. We turn clients away. We give clients away.
Yeah. Let me, I don't want to push back, but I want to encourage people to understand the process of where you get to that, because I think saying, I want that tomorrow, it's not going to happen tomorrow. But I think where you start is you start to try to solve a different problem. It's, I don't know if this fits, but it's sort of like they talk about you can climb the ladder and feel like you're leaning against the wrong wall.
Yep.
I've reached the top of the ladder and I've arrived, and you crap. I'm to the top, but I'm not to my destination. So you could achieve the wrong thing, right?
Right.
And so I think what you're saying is if you achieved every time you sold a policy or placed business that you got 5 names, that you could ultimately get thousands of names and fail.
Yeah.
You succeeded at the wrong thing, I guess is an easy way to say that.
Right.
So much of what you just said, Wes, requires someone to say, I believe in some form of reciprocity, law of attraction, excellence, some soup of like, be so good they can't ignore you. I'm trying to pick all these business titles I'm thinking of. But purple cow kind of thing, for those who follow Seth Godin, that actually works. And I think there's something, I'm just being the naysayer here, there's something inside of advisors who are saying, it just seems like a lot of work to become that good, or it seems like that's a long way to be so good that people just wait outside your door and say, can I work with you? So speak to that skeptic.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a couple thought processes here that I want to dig into. One is, and we've promoted this book in the past, but if you've not read it, 10X is Easier Than 2X by Dr. Benjamin Hardy and also Dan Sullivan. Fantastic book, fantastic read. One of the examples he gives is very in line with what we're talking about. He talks about when, in his faith tradition, they do mission trips.
Yeah.
And in that mission trip, they are looking for a metric that says how many people actually ended up. The final metric is how many people ended up engaging in the church and beginning to engage in that church community. And so they have all these sub metrics that they monitor to say what actually led people to that. So one of the things they would track are dots, and the dots were how many people did let us in their door when we knocked on it.
Okay.
Now again, I'm not saying anybody should adopt this strategy for this business. I want to make that really clear. But their deal was they'd knock on your door and they'd say how many people actually accepted us inside their house.
Sure.
And so what became like a outline metric, like a somewhat they would call it a lead indicator, became the thing that was championed, became the thing that was celebrated, and became the thing that they focused on more than anything else. Now, here's the thing. When Benjamin Hardy went in and he began to say, how do we apply some of the business knowledge that I have into what we're doing here, he began to focus on that because everybody's like, but look how many dots we're getting. These are all red dots. Everybody let us in their house. And then we have these, and the conversion rate is whatever it is, 2% or 5% or whatever it might be that actually end up engaging.
I remember this part now. Yeah. Okay.
And the fascinating part was Benjamin Hardy said, okay, he said, but let's talk to the people that actually came into the church community. And the majority of them came by a referral from an existing person that was in their life, one of their friends, saying, hey, do you want to come to church? You should come to church with me. Right. And he said, so maybe we're measuring the wrong dots. Maybe the dots we should actually begin measuring are how many conversations you have with people that are already actively plugged into the church community about, hey, have you talked to anybody you care about that you have influence in your life about, hey, this is something that's been really meaningful to me. I'd love you to show up and see what it's all about. When they did it, Andy, over 75% increase in the thing they actually cared about, which is people being actively engaged in the church community. So the thing here is this, is like we measure how many names you get. Well, man, I'm great. I mean, I can get, Andy, I can get you 50 names. I'm great at getting names.
Yep. Okay. So let's just say that. Let's just say that my goal is to average. I mean, let's make it simple, and you can help me if I'm not looking at this right. But let's just say that my average, I want to get 80% of my business. I want to get them to fill out that referral sheet. Yeah, that's my goal, right? Okay. And I want to average a certain number of whatever. But my goal is, 80% of people I want to fill out that sheet. What you're saying is that number could mean nothing.
It's the wrong goal. It's the wrong goal. If your goal is to fill up a referral sheet, that's a great goal. If your goal is you want to have meaningful conversation that moves forward and you're able to increase people's profitability and quality of life, that is not the right goal. There is.
Well, sorry to interrupt. Let me offer this. Let's cut right to it. If your goal is more business, you're saying, right?
If you actually want the outcome to be you do business with people,
I think that's fair. I think that is a fair assumption that the people listening to the show would like to place business with humans. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
There great story on this, and then we'll get into the meat of like what the process is and something you can do. But way back in the day, I was at a conference. It was at a North Point church conference in Alpharetta, Georgia, and one of the speakers was he used to be the marketing director for Chick-fil-A.
Okay.
And this was like back in the day when Chick-fil-A was still, they were in competition with Boston Chicken, who later became Boston Market.
Right.
That was their biggest competition at the time.
I remember that. Yeah.
And he said, we're all young guys. We're sitting around this table. And then there's Truett, Kathy, the founder of Chick-fil-A. He's at one end of the table. He said, and we're all talking about Boston Market. We're talking about, because Boston Market, they were borrowing a bunch of money. They were expanding. They were building.
I don't know if folks remember this, but I remember they went boom. I mean, boom in a good way. I mean, they went nowhere to ever.
I mean, there was, you couldn't go anywhere without seeing a Boston Chicken at the time.
Yeah.
And so they're going, man, what are we going to, and the conversation turned to this. He said, it was, how do we get bigger? 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 And he said, and Truett was unengaged from the conversation, which is very untypical for him. And he said, and pretty soon he's just like, they start hearing this thump, and it's Truett hitting his fist on the desk, on this big conference table that they're in. And he's getting louder and louder until everybody basically stops talking and looks over at Truett.
Truett, thanks you for the rhythm beat. But Truett over there keeping the bass line going. Right, Truett, what's going on?
And he said, I'm sick and tired of hearing how we're going to become bigger. If we focus on becoming better, our customers will demand we become bigger. The difference maker in the way we think about getting new clients is that if all you take away from that is this one thing, if you focus on getting better, your clients will demand you become bigger. And we see it every single week in our organization. And I'm not lying about that. We get referrals every single week on average, I would say. But and the reason is this, is because we have a process that stops our clients long enough to help them think about where they are relative to the rich life they want to live. And then we create a annual cadence with them where they're getting a monthly strategy summary that says, here's the things outstanding. Here's what we're moving towards.
Sure.
And we're constantly attaching that to the story they're in about money. We do mid-years, we do year ends where we're saying, hey, in light of the fact that you've got this income this year, what are the other things we need to think about tax-wise? And then we're quantifying those things. We have a process. That's what we teach and transform. You can go sign up for that. We teach them twice a year. And it is the process that if you want to get more referrals, do this process.
Sure.
That is the game changer. That is the thing you have to do.
But the challenge of that is, I think what's difficult when people hear the stories of, and I think about Apple, I think about Chick-fil-A, I think about how excited. I don't know if anyone else has experienced this. So I live in Spring Hill, Tennessee. Okay, a suburb of Nashville. I would say it's 30 minutes south of Nashville-ish. Franklin, Tennessee, when I moved here, I think they only had one Chick-fil-A. I think they now have 3. When I moved to Spring Hill, one of the things that people in Spring Hill were very excited about was, when are we going to get a Chick-fil-A? When are we going to get a Chick-fil-A? When are we going to, and when they opened up, we were like, thank you for creating, thank you for taking one of the busiest intersections of our current city and making it even worse. And with no sarcasm. I will wait in line at that stop. I don't care, because they felt like when they gave them their money, what they got back was a gift, which is not actually the definition of a gift. That's called buying something, right? And yet somehow we do this with the new phone comes out for a company, the new whatever. There's other, the tickets go on sale for a concert. No one's mad that Taylor Swift is opening her ticket sale, right?
What an interruption to my day.
Absolutely.
No, you know what it is? You're excited. You plan your day around it. And that's the thing. Is your process so attractive? And this is a question for everybody listening, that people are so excited about it that they tell their friends a thing that leads them to go, I want to take a look, to people that are successful, that are doing well, because those are the kind of clients we want to work with, right? Is their life's going pretty good without you, but it could go a whole lot better with you. And they heard something that was so unusual that they did that was worth talking about, that it's transferable, it's communicatable, right, in such a way that they're like, I want to take a look.
And I think what is difficult, if I can just be really frank here, Wes, it is difficult to say, okay, so I'm going to take the energy of going and gathering and asking for 5 names, or I'm going to eliminate that. I mean, and I'm going to put that energy towards how can I just do a better job at that other thing? Because I just think it's hard not to go, okay, but give me 5 names.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm just being frank. It's just like, Wes, are you saying that I should take that out of my system and just go, you know what? I'm just not going to do that, because, and I think the knocking on the doors thing, it's like, if you want to get people to come to your church, ask yourself what's the most effective way to do it. And the ultimate irony would be if knocking on doors was the wrong thing for that group. Right.
Yeah.
But it's like, you can do that and you can be successful at knocking on 1,000 doors. But if it's not going to result in the result you want, then it's not successful. And I think the challenge for advisors listening right now is to say, any energy you put at the wrong method is wrong.
That's right. If you have to ask for names to go interrupt people that don't want to meet with you because you weren't a part of their life already, and I'm not saying it doesn't work occasionally. Like, listen, I did it. I got clients that are good clients of mine right now. Man, though, there's just a much easier way. It's kind of like there's so many ways to make money in life, Andy. Some ways are real hard,
Mm-hmm.
and they make it unnecessarily hard by doing it this other way.
So I find myself trying to advocate on behalf of the listener right now and being like, but can I do this? So I'm going to do one of those. Okay. So I'm pretending to be the advisor. Okay, Wes, I hear that. I'm with you. Amen, brother. But do you never ask? Is there, I just find myself thinking all these different ways to just do the exact same thing, which is
well, a couple things, right? Is look, if you're in your first 10 years of this business, most likely what's happening is like you're just trying to get meetings, and I get that. And so you got to ask for meetings. And now if you could, though, just ask yourself, if I could create a process
where
I never had to ask for another one again, and people ask me for them, I'd rather do that than the latter, right?
Another way of saying this is, would you rather pay for advertising?
Yes.
Would you rather make products so good that you generally don't have to advertise? I mean, if you had to put your resources somewhere,
and so that's all I'm saying. You do need to sleep indoors and eat every day. So I get that in the beginning, and then we all do it, right? I mean, you've got to reach out to people. You got to ask for meetings for people that didn't ask you. And that's really different. I totally understand that, and you'll get clients from that.
Yeah.
But do you want that to be the next 25, 30 years, 40 years of your life? And if the answer to that is no, and I would challenge you if it's not. I get people are wired different. Everybody's wired like any, but I would rather have people that are reaching out to you. Hey, I want to meet with you. Can we talk?
Yeah.
Do you want to practice like that? And if you do, it exists. Because I'm going to tell you, we've seen now almost thousands of advisors that have gone through our program. That's what they have. They have a practice. They have a process that is so attractive that the clients they work with are their marketing tool, and they don't ask them. They go tell them. Now, there's language we use. There's specific things we say to make it transferable, easy, to where we're always on their mind in conversation, But gosh, you will go through a transformation. You do have to ask to stay in business, right?
Yeah.
But if you don't focus on getting, it's the whole trick, Kathy. Quit focusing on just getting more, getting bigger. Focus on getting better, and your clients ultimately demand you become bigger because they're going to be your biggest resource out there.
Yeah.
And it is a mind shift, because that is not microwave. It is crock pot. And meaning you are going to take a bit longer, but man, it's going to taste way better when you get to the end of it.
Yeah. I mean, isn't the challenge though, surviving long enough, right? I think about when Steve Jobs took over Apple and they weren't doing very well. And he's like, we're going to get rid of a bunch of these products because they're just not that interesting, right?
Yeah.
And again, Apple's the example everybody uses. It's almost like, like if there's ever, we can edit this out if you need to, Wes, but like, you ever heard like there's these different ways you can argue? Like there's the slippery slope argument. If you let this happen, this is going to happen. And there's one form of arguing that, and it has to do with the word Hitler. Like anytime you use the word Hitler, you have sort of lost a good reason for the argument, because you're like, okay, if you're going to use that as an example, that's ridiculous. People do that with Apple. Like, okay, Apple can't be your example of everything, right? But it's a great example for a lot of things.
But we're going to use it.
Right? But we're going to do it anyway, right? And one of them is, and I'm not saying they don't spend money on advertising, but it's like if you had time and money, which are two limited resources, last I checked, and you could put them anywhere, or let's just say two options, which is I'm going to invest in whether it's advertising or asking for referrals, or in research and development, or in self-improvement. And I'm going to learn to teach better. I'm going to learn to whiteboard better. I'm going to learn to go through this class. I'm going to write whatever it is, right? I'm going to work on my health. I'm going to work on my mental health, whatever it might be. Like a dollar can only be used one or the other. What you're saying is invest in becoming better at this versus spend another nickel or breath asking people. And I would just say, even as I explain it out loud, I can just feel people listening to us going like, bro, that's hard.
Yeah, no, it is hard. And listen, I recognize it. And what I am saying here is, listen, you still need to have meetings every week. So if your process is not such that you're getting people so attracted to you that they're asking for meetings, you still have to go get them. You do.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying like abandon ship and go out of business, because that's what may happen if you just completely do that. But I am saying this, it is the classic normalize the new. It is that everybody is normal. They have a current way they go about making progress.
Right.
And if your current way of going about making progress involves you constantly asking for meetings from people that didn't ask you, there's a better way to do this. Now I'm saying don't stop. You've learned to survive. You've learned to exist. So get out there, do the things you need to do. But on the other side of that, there is a way where you could have a process so attractive that you could have everybody that knew that you meet with ask you for the meeting. And
I think that literally having that as a reality, like if you said to someone 80 years ago, so we're looking, 1940 something, right? Like to go, you can type on a typewriter and hit a button and your message will be sent to someone in Germany. Well, how long? Immediately. They would be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Right. But somewhere in our development as human beings, we created enough technology to create email.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm old enough to remember the idea of sitting on a video and talking to someone was at one time called the Jetsons. And now it's, if you're on YouTube watching us right now, like it's our reality.
That's
right?
what we do. Yeah.
And I think the challenge is, and we got to wrap with this, but the challenge is, are you open to a different reality?
Yeah.
Because what you're talking about, Wes, is not a tweak. It is a different reality. It is. And when you're trying to go, and that's why the 10X, 2X is a great book for this and so challenging. I found that book way more challenging than I thought it was going to be.
Absolutely.
Is because it's not, how do you do this? It's, you have to ask yourself completely different questions.
I love that you brought it up, because again, I just spent 2 days at Strategic Coach. If you guys aren't in Strategic Coach, I recommend you put that on your list as well. Dan Sullivan, who wrote the book with Dr. Benjamin Hardy, but where you're digging into these concepts. And the thing is, most people think in a 2X approach. They think, well, I just need to turn up the volume, run faster, work harder with the way I already do it. Mm-hmm. The issue with that is you will hit a ceiling of complexity. Yeah. You're finite and I'm finite. We can only run so fast, work so hard. Yeah. What you need is to do it different. Yeah. And so I'm not saying, again, this is the normalized the news. It's very messy, right? I love the C.S. Lewis. In fact, I've got it on one of my desktop here. C.S. Lewis said this: if we let ourselves, we shall always be waiting for some distraction or other to end before we can really get down to our work. The only people who achieve much are those who want knowledge so badly that they seek it while the conditions are still unfavorable. Favorable conditions never come. And the reality of that is, listen, you got your normal and you've survived with your normal, and you protect that because at least it's gotten you where most people aren't. Most people don't make it in this business. Mm-hmm. But there's a new out there, and it's not more of what you're already doing louder and faster. Yeah. It's you do it better, and your clients will demand you become bigger. And again, we've got, go listen to other podcasts. We talk about a lot of these strategies and tactics today. I just really want to get this in your head. But man, join us in Transform. Join us. You can go to Wes Young Live and .com and go register for the next Transform class. And we will show you exactly what we do that creates a business where you don't ask for meetings, people ask you for them. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for your time today, Wes. And folks, thank you for listening. I would encourage you to do one of two things. One, listen to this episode again. Just start over. Just stop, go back and listen to it again, to let it sort of wash over you again and maybe penetrate a little deeper into your psyche and the fact that, hey, I want to be challenged in this. I found myself doing this a lot recently, Wes, of going back to books I've read, going back to podcasts I like, and just sort of letting them sort of hit me again, right? And the other is simply to schedule time on your account, put it on your calendar to start to process, what would this look like? What do I need to do differently in order to get to that different place versus just do more of the same? Yeah. Because more of the same will result in more of the same. That's right. Wes, I'll give you the last word. No, I think you wrapped it up beautifully, and I think everybody listening, the fact that you're listening just says something about who you
Yeah,
are.
true.
Is that you want to make tomorrow better than it is today, and you're doing things to try that. And so, don't just let this be, hey, that's cool.
Yeah.
Apply the paint. And how can you apply the paint of today, other than just getting a can of paint and going, yeah, I got a lot of cans of paint back here. Unapplied paint does not do anybody any good. And so, how do you apply the paint? Maybe it's you go and you just and you register for the next Transform class. You buy one of the modules where we talk about this is you want to let's just show me how you do it. We show you how we do it, literally on there. So check that out.
Thanks for your time, Wes, and folks. Thanks for listening.